is in the building.
It's 2008. Eli Manning, the GOAT, somehow beat Tom Brady. Iron Man came out and started the whole MCU. My cousin Roman asked me to go bowling with him approximately 400 times, and I went like once. Ouch. But life was good, minus the whole recession part, but hey, we were kids and WWE was lit, so that's all that mattered. The WWE had gone HD and it was beautiful. As a kid, I didn't really notice a difference, but now watching a pre-HD show compared to an actual HD show, it's like, how the hell did we watch this? It was just a fun time to be a fan. Jeff Hardy was still out there wilding until he got suspended. John Cena made his legendary return at the 2008 Rumble and had every kid just marking out. The two kids who made their names at WrestleMania 21 as the heels that were next up, well, they were up and now they were world champions. Edge and Orton were officially the top heels in the company and we hated them. Undertaker was still dead as usual. Old man Ric Flair was still styling and profiling at 59 years old, but the question was, for how long? And in March, we got WrestleMania 24, the last WrestleMania of the ruthless aggression era. The era that so many of us grew up with, the era that is responsible for so many of us loving wrestling, and this was it. The WWE was slowly changing, we were getting older, and even though as the years went on we still loved WWE, this was still the final mania of our era, so we will always love this. And also, because of this mania, I got into Red Hot Chili Peppers, so it will always have a special place in my heart. This mania top to bottom was a blast. So let's go back to March of 2008, live from Crackhead, Orlando, Florida, 74,000 in attendance, WrestleMania looking flat out gorgeous. Let's take a look at WrestleMania 24. What I loved about this mania was the vibe, the Florida sunshine vibe. The stadium looked amazing, the stage was great. It took them 15 days to set up the stage and they worked 16 hours a day, but WrestleMania felt like WrestleMania again. Even though 23 wasn't a huge stadium, it just didn't hit like this one. WrestleMania was back outside with 74,000 people screaming, and now in vibrant HD, it just looked like the coolest spectacle you had ever seen. You had fighter jets flying over the stadium, John freaking Legend singing America the Beautiful. I remember as a kid, before a match even took place, I was just in awe. We got a Belfast brawl to open up the show where poor Hornswoggle just got absolutely collapsed. It was a fun way to open up the show. It was no Owen versus Brett, but hey, we got tables and trash cans, so I don't see the issue. We got an awesome Money in the Bank. Of course, it's WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, it's always gonna be a banger, where John Morrison was out here doing moonsaults with a ladder, Shelton as usual taking insane bumps. This match had so many finishers off the top of the ladder. We even got a Walls of Jericho on the ladder. Matt Hardy made a surprise return and hit MVP with a twist of fate. Listen, like I said, it's a WrestleMania Money in the Bank ladder match. You already know they went out there to kill themselves for our entertainment, and there was just some wild spots, and everyone I knew thought Jericho was the clear favorite, but Punk outsmarted him and got his legs trapped in the ladder, grabbed the briefcase, and CM Punk was Mr. Money in the Bank. I don't think many people were expecting that to happen, but it did. CM Punk in 2006 at WrestleMania was an extra in John Cena's entrance, and now 2 years later he's Mr. Money in the Bank at the same show. Kane became ECW champion in 9 seconds, Batista had a decent match with Umaga, we even got a Kim Kardashian sighting. Say what you want to say about Kim Kardashian, but in 2008 Kim Kardashian, whoa. The first hour or so was fun, but once the sun had set, once it got dark out, it was time for something legendary. In wrestling history, there have been many moments that made the audience emotional. Whether it's storylines, matches, or moments, there have been times that you couldn't help but be emotional. Moments that just pulled at your heartstrings. Wrestling is a beautiful thing because of those moments and because of storytelling. Wrestling is at its best when you forget what you're watching and you're just invested. In November of 2007, the WWE started a storyline arc that is without a doubt one of the greatest storylines they've ever done. Ric Flair was 59 years old. He had done it all and he had seen it all. From surviving a plane crash to wrestling 60-minute classics every night, from the Four Horsemen to Evolution, Starrcade to WrestleMania, wrestling since the 70s, over 40 championships held, a true pop culture icon, and of course a wrestling icon. No matter how old you were, you appreciated Ric Flair. He was simply the man. He was the nature boy. He was Ric Flair. Vince told Flair, the next match you lose, your career is over. And that's it. That's the storyline. Old man Ric Flair didn't want to retire. Okay, that's fine. He just had to keep on winning and winning. And it was wasn't going to be easy. Vince was going to do whatever he could to make sure Flair lost. So Flair had to pull out all the dirty tricks he had to survive, and he did. And he was surviving. Sure, it was DQs and countouts most of the time, but a win is a win, especially for the dirtiest player in the game. So WrestleMania season was approaching, and that meant so was the Hall of Fame. Shawn comes out and says, "It's my honor and privilege to announce the very first inductee." It was none other than Ric Flair, and it was announced by his good friend Shawn Michaels. Then the next week on Raw, Shawn had just finished a match and out came Flair. Shawn is bowing down, the crowd is wooing, they are hugging. Rick begins talking. He explains how he is so honored to go into the Hall of Fame and that WrestleMania weekend is going to be the highlight of his career. And there was only one thing that could make it even better. And that would be to wrestle Mr. WrestleMania himself at WrestleMania. Ric Flair challenges Shawn to a match at WrestleMania, but remember, the next match Flair loses, he has to retire. HBK is shocked. "I'm sorry, I can't. I don't want to be known as the man who retired Ric Flair." So Rick looks him in the eye and says, "Shawn, all the respect you gave me last week means nothing if you don't give me the best match of my career on the grandest stage of them all." Shawn hesitates, but looks him in the eye and says it would be an honor to wrestle you at WrestleMania. And for weeks they went along with it, cutting friendly promos, even tagging together, but it all changed on the last Raw before WrestleMania. HBK is still laughing and playing around with Rick, but Rick just stops and he snaps. He brings out the old NWA belt and he starts yelling in HBK's face. Rick was tired of how HBK was treating this as not something serious, so he's screaming in his face, "I need one more night, I need one more match, I need to be the Nate." He was basically telling HBK, bring it, stop the fun and games, and bring your A game. So then Shawn gets serious and he says to Flair, "I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to give you Shawn Michaels. I'm going to give you Mr. WrestleMania, the headliner, the icon, the main event, and rest assured, I'm going to give you the showstopper." Flair is satisfied, he's happy, and Michaels is about to leave, but looks back, delivers one of the most iconic promo lines of all time. "Remember the story of Old Yeller? They loved that dog, but when it was time, they had to take that dog out back and finish him. And at WrestleMania, I'm going to put you, Old Yeller, out of your misery." Ric Flair snaps. He starts slapping him. "Old Yeller? Old Yeller, huh?" The whole time Flair wanted to light a fire in HBK. The fire was always there. Shawn just wanted to make sure that Flair was ready. And this was it. Flair versus Michaels at WrestleMania on the grandest stage of them all. If Flair loses, he retires. His 30-year career is over. The story was amazing. Flair knew his time was winding down. He had spent months overcoming the odds, surviving wrestlers in their primes, but he knew his ride wasn't going to last forever. He wanted someone to end his misery. He wanted another GOAT to do it, and he wanted it on the grandest stage of them all. He wanted to dial it back to the 80s one more time, give the fans a classic, show them who the Nature Boy was and is, and just maybe he had some magic left in him. And then there's HBK. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to be the one to end his hero's career, but at the same time, it's his friend asking him for a match. It's his friend asking for a favor. So what does he do? Does he go to Mania and end Flair's career? Does he give it his all? Does he coast? Does he lay down for him? Does he take it easy on him? Should he end Flair's career before someone else trying to make their name does it? What's his legacy going to be like if he loses to a 59-year-old Flair at WrestleMania? How can he be the GOAT? How can he be Mr. WrestleMania? There was so much depth in one storyline, it was perfect. And then the night before Mania, you had Flair inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was dark out, the stadium looked gorgeous, and out came HBK. The crowd still loves him, Mr. WrestleMania was here, and now it was time for the Nature Boy. The crowd was wooing like no tomorrow, the music hits and what a reaction. Fireworks going off, Ric Flair standing in his blue robe just soaking it in. What a visual. Ric Flair walked to the ring like he was a king. His family was at ringside, Lil Nate as the referee. This was going to be something special, and it was. Ric Flair at 59 years old went 20 minutes with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. It was amazing. The crowd was so hot. Every few seconds you would hear woo, every chop, woo. Flair went out there and in front of 74,000 people after wrestling since the 1970s, hit HBK with all of his greatest hits, all of his classic spots, and Shawn returned the favor, and together they created magic. It's WrestleMania. You already know what move Shawn was going to pull out. He goes on the apron, bounces off the second rope, goes flying in the air, and is a springboard moonsault. Flair isn't there, and bang, Michaels ribs right into the table. and Flair did everything he could, suplexes and all, to somehow beat Michaels. HBK fought back and somehow pulled out another moonsault off the top rope to the outside, but the coolest spot without a doubt in my opinion was when it was time for the sweet chin music. Shawn was tuning up the band, he was ready to end it all. It was going to be the end of the legendary career of Ric Flair. Fans going crazy, they're counting along to every thump. Flair slowly gets up, Shawn went for the sweet chin music, but as Jim Ross said, he couldn't pull the trigger. He freezes and he couldn't hit the kick, but Nature Boy pulled his trigger. He grabs his legs and puts him in the iconic figure 4 leg lock. Classic. What a genius spot. When Shawn finally did hit him with the sweet chin music, it was literally out of nowhere. No one saw it coming and the audience let out a huge gasp. Commentary was shook, I was shook, the audience was shook, and both men were down, and this was it. Michael slowly goes over, gets his arm around Rick. 1, 2, no, Flair kicked out. So much drama, so much passion, and such great storytelling. This is what wrestling is all about. Flair wasn't going down that easy. He still tried everything he could. Low blow while the referee wasn't looking, but it wasn't enough. Flair did everything, but it wasn't working. After 19 minutes of them going at it, HBK out of nowhere, again, sweet chin music, and it was time for one of the most emotional moments in wrestling history. Michaels is slowly getting up, and eventually Flair is slowly getting up. Michaels is in the corner, and it was about to go down. Michaels with the saddest look on his face, no tuning up the band this time. Commentary goes silent, the crowd goes silent. Shawn was about to put Old Yeller out of his misery. Flair gets up and he's begging for it. He knows it's coming. He tried everything he could, but it just wasn't meant to be. He wants Michaels to end it. Michaels says, "I'm sorry, I love you," and sweet chin music. 1, 2, 3, it was over. One of the greatest matches of all time. When it comes down to drama and storytelling, it's hard to find something better than this. Everybody in the back of their head knew Flair was losing, it was the end, but there was always that little hope, and that's what made this special. Shawn quickly gets out of the ring, looking down, just walks away, and it was all eyes on Flair in the ring. Flair started crying and the cheers got louder and louder. Standing ovation for the Nature Boy. Flair is sitting in there crying, just soaking it in. Charlotte is there crying, his sons are there crying, Rita's there, rest in peace. Emotional is an understatement. He goes to his family, so many tears, the stadium is rocking. Flair waves goodbye, he's smiling while crying. He's on the entrance ramp, turns around, puts his hands in the air, kisses goodbye, and Ric Flair had officially retired from the WWE. An all-time great wrestling moment. You can't watch this match and tell me wrestling isn't art. A beautiful story, a beautiful match, and a beautiful ending. It was something straight out of Shakespeare. An all-time great wrestling moment. Even as a kid, I was about 10 years old and I still knew how important this was, and even I had teary eyes back then. And all I knew about Flair was Evolution and his 05-06 run, and yeah, I knew he was a cool guy back in the 80s, but even then, I got teary-eyed. Imagine the people who grew up watching Flair in his prime back in the 70s or the 80s, or the kids who grew up watching him win the Rumble in 92, or the WCW kids. This was special. This is what WrestleMania is all about. And then Flair ended up on TNA, but let's pretend that never happened. On this night, we also got Cena versus Triple H versus Orton. Talk about Ruthless Aggression era star power. It was the most typical main event level triple threat match ever, non-stop brawling and finishers, but hey, it was fun. I was just disappointed we didn't get to see Orton and Cena one-on-one at Mania. Regardless, this was fun. This was the Randy Orton show. There was one goal with this match, and that was make Randy look elite, and of course he did. Double DDT on both Cena and Triple H, RKO on Triple H. Randy stole the victory by punting Triple H, taking his pin. This was the Randy Orton show. When celebrity involvement is done right, it's awesome. When it's done wrong, yeah, it's pretty lame. But Floyd Mayweather in 2008, yo, you might not have liked it, but I loved it. Floyd was just so good at being a heel because he wasn't acting, he was just being himself. You wanted to see Floyd lose, and that's why his pay-per-views sold so well. And even though here it was wrestling, just the dynamic of the world's largest athlete fighting the best boxer who happens to be the size of his leg was interesting. So Floyd Mayweather versus a Big Show at WrestleMania. Floyd comes out, money falling from the sky, fireworks exploding, his posse is there, and he's face to face with the Big Show. Show. The size difference is insane. The best boxer, one of the most popular athletes in the world, was in a WWE ring in his prime about to wrestle. What was cool about this was Floyd wrestled. He took bumps and it was just fun. Big Show stomped on Floyd's hand and Floyd was selling it like it legit was broken. Floyd, to his credit, took a Big Show chop to the chest. Show picked him up and gave him a side slam. Show dropped a leg on the arm, stepped on Floyd's ribs and delivered a headbutt. Floyd took bumps. What more could you ask from him? And they put together a great little man versus giant match. Yes, there were interferences, people getting choke slammed and thrown around the ring, chairs were brought in, it was a spectacle, but the crowd was into it, I was into it, my friends were into it, my parents were into it. It was just entertaining. After chair shots and brass knuckle shots to the head, Floyd won. This was a celebrity angle done right, which had people interested, which was unique, which was intriguing. This wasn't like Snooki coming in or Tyson Fury, which no one really cared. This was 2008 Floyd Money Mayweather. See, the show had everything. You wanted people killing each other in a ladder match, you got Money in the Bank. You wanted to cry and be invested, you got Michaels versus Flair. You wanted a spectacle, you had Floyd versus Big Show. You wanted a good old-fashioned triple threat filled with star power, you had Cena versus Triple H versus Randy Orton. This isn't the best Mania ever, but it was just good, and we still had the main event left for the World Heavyweight Championship. The Dead Man, the Phenom, the Undertaker, who was undefeated at WrestleMania 15-0, was back in the main event of WrestleMania for the first time since 1997. And he was up against the heel of a generation, the man we hated like no other, the man who somehow, someway always figured it out, always clapped our favorites, always finessed his way to the top, the rated R superstar, Edge. What made this special was, well, one, we wanted to see this. Second, this wasn't just another match for Undertaker. He wanted to kill Edge. He wanted to destroy him, and it was almost a year in the making. The year prior, Undertaker was the World Heavyweight Champion. He had just held on to his title after a bloody cage match versus Batista, where both men's feet hit the floor at the same time, so Taker remained champion. Then Mark Henry came in and beat up the bloody Dead Man even more, and as Mark was leaving, out came Edge with the Money in the Bank briefcase. When the Undertaker was at his weakest, after a violent cage match, after getting crushed by Mark Henry, Edge, the ultimate opportunist, took advantage and became World Heavyweight Champion. And it didn't stop there. Edge, over the course of the next year, somehow, someway, always got the better of Taker. He cost the Taker the title 3 times, interfering in Taker's Hell in a Cell match, destroying him with the camera, using lookalikes to finesse a win in a triple threat match. Edge just had Undertaker's number. But the thing was, could he do it one more time on the biggest night of the year, on the night where no one had ever beat The Undertaker, on the grandest stage of them all, in the main events of WrestleMania? Could Edge end the streak? Undertaker vs Edge at WrestleMania, almost a year in the making. I love this match. I loved SmackDown at this time. Friday nights, I was tuned in every Friday, looking forward to it, hoping, praying Edge would finally get his due by Batista, Taker, or even Rey Mysterio, but he barely did. So I was excited for this. The Dead Man was finally going to get his hands on Edge. And this was a great match. Edge really brought his game. Edge wanted to prove himself so bad. He wanted to showcase to the world how elite he was. We knew he was elite, but that's what makes all-time greats great. The chip on their shoulder to always perform, to always show the world how great they are. The crowd was low-key dead after the spectacle of Floyd vs. Show, but this match was so good they brought them back into it. Once the match kicked into the second gear, it was a wrap. Undertaker went for a choke slam, Edge countered it with the execution. Edge reversed the last right into a neck breaker. The story was, whatever Taker did, Edge had an answer for it. When Taker finally did hit him with the choke slam or the last ride, Edge somehow kicked out. So even though he was a sneaky heel who people thought was a fluke champion who shouldn't be here, when it mattered, he put in work and he stood toe to toe with The Undertaker. It felt like a big match. It felt like a big deal. A WrestleMania main event worthy match. My favorite moment in the match was the referee's down. Edge grabs the camera and bashes it in Taker's face, just like how we did at Survivor Series 2007, but Undertaker still sat up. Both men just kept on fighting, nobody was going down. So Edge went for the tombstone, but Undertaker reversed it into his own tombstone. But the referee was still down, so Charles Robinson ran for his life. Look how big that stage was and that ramp, and he ran for his life. He got down there, 1, 2, no. Edge kicked out of the tombstone at WrestleMania. It was just back and forth insane kickouts and moments where Edge survives everything, and I was like, maybe this is it. Maybe Edge is going to be the one who ends the streak. You had Hawkins and Ryder come out, Taker kills them, but Edge uses that time to heal. Taker turns around and bang, spear. It's over, right? 1, 2, no. Okay, it's fine. Edge is going for a second spear, but we all thought, no way. There's no way he's gonna hit it. The Undertaker is going to leap over or move. There's no way he's gonna hit him with the second spear right away. So Edge runs, he actually hits him with the second spear. At that point, we were like, is Undertaker really gonna kick out of a second spear? No way, like we thought it was over. How the hell was Undertaker gonna kick out? So Edge goes over, and just when you least expected it, Undertaker traps Edge into a submission move he had just introduced recently. Edge is fighting and fighting. Edge did everything right. He reversed everything. He hit him with the camera. He hit him with 2 spears. But the dead man always evolves, and the dead man had 1 tool left in his woodshed. Edge is fighting and fighting, but he has no choice but to tap out. And the Undertaker wins at WrestleMania and is 16-0. What a match, a classic, one of my favorite matches of the 2000s. Edge and Taker just had that chemistry. Edge and Taker delivered a banger. The Undertaker was once again World Heavyweight Champion, and even though Edge lost, he looked better than ever. He once again on the WrestleMania stage showed the world how elite he truly was. And the Undertaker was now 16-0 at WrestleMania, but we were just happy that Edge was no longer champion. What a show, what a spectacle. This WrestleMania had you crying, had you on the edge of your seat, had you laughing, had you in awe. This is what WrestleMania is all about. It wasn't the best Mania ever, it wasn't 17 or 19, but it was a damn good WrestleMania. It was a spectacle, it was a showcase of the immortals, it was larger than life, it was the grandest stage of them all. It was a show that I'll never forget watching live. So like I said, not the greatest WrestleMania of all time or anything, but a damn special one. What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 24? Let me know below. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more content coming soon.